Hey, I'm Siobhan, community cultivator and founder of Be Free Project. The Be Free Project podcast was created for community, sisterhood, and personal growth. Each week, you'll be inspired and motivated to do the work to show up for yourself so you too can feel fulfilled and be free. Now grab a pen and a notebook and let's get into the show. The best decision that you can make today is joining the Be Free Inner Circle at BeFreeInnerCircle.com, a community for like-minded women to find their forever friends and get accountability to do their personal growth work. Your membership includes a private, exclusive community of women who are not only showing up for themselves, but for one another. Weekly live events with me and or guest speakers, daily accountability so this way you can finally get stuff done, mentorship from yours truly, and so much more. Now, there's no long-term commitment and you can cancel at any time. However, I can guarantee the moment you join, you're going to feel a warm embrace and you're going to want to stick around. Every single member of the Be Free Inner Circle will walk away with clarity, fulfillment, and confidence because guess what? When you're around me, you're going to win. So come and grow inside the Be Free Inner Circle at BeFreeInnerCircle.com. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Be Free Project podcast. You already know I'm so happy to be with you for another week. This week, I am loving yoga. So I started practicing yoga. Actually, I really started practicing years ago, and then it's just been this off and on thing here and there. Well, most recently, I would say, was it back in October? I started practicing again. One of my friends, Denisha, has a yoga studio here in the city, and I started going back to yoga, and it feels so good. And I decided to start practicing yoga again to complement my therapy sessions. Therapy was really tough for me for several months, and I'm finally in a good space, which feels really good. But yoga was helping me really move the feelings and energy through my body and just a great way to connect with myself more. So really excited to be back practicing yoga. My friend does an amazing job, and I would love for you to check her out. Her website is yoganisha.com. All right, so on to today's topic, which is we all want to be seen. Now, in this particular episode, and I feel like I do this all the time, I'm very transparent with my journey. And so when I learn something, I have this calling, if you will, or this, like I have to share it with people. And once I get a revelation about something, I have that awareness. I am clear. I'm like, I have to share this with my community because it's healing for me as I process what I'm working on. But I know that other listeners will be able to relate and to identify. And so I wanted to talk about how we all want to be seen because I believe in my heart of hearts, we all desire that. Now, whether you're in relationships and friendships with people who are actually seeing you, that's a conversation for another day. But for today, I just want to talk about the importance of being seen and why we all want to be seen. So I talked about this on several episodes back, how I healed my mother wound. And this actually happened. Let me say this. I've been working on this wound for, my God, so many years. However, everything came full circle after yoga practice back in October, I believe. And once that wound was completely healed, I could feel it in my body. I want to describe it as a circle. So I think each part of my healing journey as it relates to the mother wound, I was slowly completing a circle, if you just work with me here. And once my mother acknowledged and apologized for physically and emotionally abandoning me, that circle closed up. And it allowed me to begin to discover who I am. Now, I was living my life, let's just say with 1/4 of that circle complete, totally okay. When she acknowledged and apologized, that shifted something in my being because what I realized is that all these years, I just wanted to be seen by her. And I wanted her to acknowledge the choices that she made. Now, I didn't communicate that. And in my mind, I was okay. But once that acknowledgement and that apology happened, I'm like, that really, really mattered to you. And so once that happened back in October, it opened up space for me to work on my father wound. Now, if you've been listening to my podcast for any amount of time, you know I do not talk about a father wound. But let's be clear, my mother and my father physically and emotionally abandoned me. However, my whole life, I dismissed his absence in my life. And the reason that I did that is because of how my grandmother talked about men, how I seen men show up in my mother's life, and so forth. And because I didn't grow up where fathers were around, in my mind, he did not matter. Now, the truth is, his absence did matter, but I only had capacity to work on my mother wound. So once that healing came full circle, there was a space that opened up in me that I can now work on my father wound. Now, that was not easy, and it has been work because all these years I've dismissed and I just felt like, oh, he doesn't matter. So anytime someone would bring up like, well, how's your relationship with your father? Or how does, the abandonment with your father, how does that affect you? I would quickly be like, oh, he don't matter. Like, that doesn't matter all the time. And it's like, no, it does matter. I have two parents. But again, I could not see it or feel it because of all of the pain that was around the mother wound. So now I'm in this space of working on the father wound. And I had shared with my therapist, now that I've healed this mother wound, I'm ready to do the work around my father wound. And so she gives me this list of core cluster beliefs. And she says, look at this list and tell me which ones you identify with as it relates to your father. And so the three that stood out most, which these were not the same beliefs that I chose for my mother when we talked about her, but the three core cluster beliefs that I selected was, I am invisible, I am unimportant, and I'm not good enough. And so all these years, I did not know this until I started working on it with my therapist, that my father's absence made me feel invisible and unimportant. And I'm going to tell you how this showed up in my life. And this may seem weird to some, but this is my truth. And I'm being very transparent with you today. I actually believe that I was invisible. So let me give you an example. I would go to events, what have you, and let's just say months down the line or a year later, I would run into someone and they'll say, hey, I remember you. You were at this event. And I'm always so shocked. Like, how do they remember me? They can see me? Like, yes, I know that I'm in these places. Yes, I know people see me. But in my mind, I wasn't important enough for people to pay attention to me. So I feel like I'm invisible. And it wasn't until I would say recently where I have these amazing friendships, and every single friend that I have consciously chosen to be in my life, they see me. And so sometimes I'm like, I can just be talking or sharing something and they'll share something that they see and I'm always surprised or shocked. And it blows my mind because I'm like, I didn't think people were paying attention, because if my mother didn't pay attention to me, my father didn't pay attention to me. If I feel deep in my core that I'm invisible and that I'm not important and I'm not good enough, if the people who brought me into this world, if I felt like that about them, you're damn sure I'm going to feel like that in other relationships and friendships. And it even showed up in my company as well. And this is the thing. I did not know this until I started working on the father wound with my therapist. And when I saw the belief of I am invisible, I'm like, yeah, I feel invisible. Like, I don't feel like people see me, but yet I've chosen friends to be in my life that see me, and it's really difficult to process. And I think when it comes to my company, like, people compliment me on my work all the time, and they tell me how much my work is changing their lives. But there was a part of me that felt like, do they really see me? Because I feel invisible. And I believe with, working with my therapist and having amazing friends, and we process and we talk about so much, I've been able to work on shifting that belief. And what I've learned over the last several months that I've been working on this is that I want to be seen. I've always wanted to be seen. But because of my upbringing, there wasn't space. And now, as I told you guys, how that circle has been closed, I'm discovering who I am. And I want to be seen. I need to be seen. I need to be heard, and I need to be understood. And acknowledging that I have a father wound is helping me see things I wasn't able to see before. And so I do this process that I call my roadmap to being free. And now that I have awareness, and that is the first step in the process of, oh, you have a father wound, and because of your father wound, you felt invisible, you felt unimportant, and you didn't feel good enough. Then I started asking myself questions. Well, okay, why did you feel like this? And I go through that process, and that's my clarity phase. The next part is mindset. And so for me, I'm like, okay, well, what limiting beliefs do you have, and how do you shift your mindset? And so I started reciting this affirmation, and that I just came up with it, and I wrote it in my journal that I am visible, people can see me. I am visible, people can see me. And just reciting that affirmation, that started my healing process, right? And so then after mindset, I began to gather the resources that I need. And so I started having these conversations with my friends about, how I've never felt visible in other relationships and other friendships, and how them seeing me has really shifted something. So I'm able to use my friends in a way to process what I'm feeling and get feedback from them in real time. And this way I'm not keeping everything inside. And then also working with my therapist, and then journaling. And then my action is to be more intentional. So this is the fifth part of the process, taking action and showing up for myself, even when it's uncomfortable. And even today, sharing this truth with my audience to say, hey, I know I've been talking about my mother wound for a long time, and now that's complete. Guess what? I also have a father wound. And the beautiful thing about this is that because I am emotionally healthy, my process to heal my father wound is happening in a different way as it relates to my mother wound. And I'm really, really proud of the progress that I'm making. And I can see my growth just in the last several weeks as I've been acknowledging and doing this inner work. And then the last phase of the roadmap to being free is to repeat. And so as often as I need to repeat this process, as often as I need to repeat my affirmation, or to have these conversations, or to journal, like, I go through this process. And I highly recommend that you download the roadmap to being free to begin to figure out, okay, where am I at on this roadmap as it relates to my journey? And then I invite you to hop on the wait list for the Be Free Inner Circle, because this is a process that I take our members through, where we go through awareness, we go through the clarity, the mindset, the resources, the action, and we repeat. And I curate specific content depending on where you're at on your journey. And the wait list, once you join it, I will connect with you and let you know when the doors will open to the Be Free Inner Circle, which they are opening very soon. So you definitely want to head over to BeFreeInnerCircle.com and join today. So another thing, when I was sharing with one of my great friends about the work that I was doing around my father wound, She said, Siobhan, what you're sharing makes so much sense. The fact that you did not feel seen in your other friendships or just in general, you felt invisible. And then you built a company so that women could feel seen. And when she said that, I was like, that wasn't the intention, but that is exactly what I do. Because I did not feel visible in my own life, I've built a whole company to make sure every single woman that is connected with me, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel understood. And I do that by being their cheerleader and rooting for them and celebrating with them, you know? And I was like, wow, like this is what it means to have great friends around you, because they will remind you who you are. They will remind you of the work that you're doing, and they will remind you of the growth that they can see as your friend. And this is why it's so important that you consciously choose the right friends to have in your life so that they can be a mirror for you on your personal growth journey as you do your inner work. And another thing that matters so much to me as it relates to feeling seen and understood and heard is that I need you to not just hear me, but truly listen to me with intention. And every single friend that I have in my life, they pay attention to every single word that I say. And because they do that, I feel even more seen in these friendships, and I feel safe where I can just let my hair down and just be. I did not know all of this would come up just from saying, I have a father wound and I'm ready to work on it. Had this been the beginning, middle of last year, I was nowhere close to doing this inner work. And I can see how just me acknowledging it and addressing it, how much growth I've had just in the last several months. And I want every single woman connected to my work. I just want you to be seen. It does not feel good to feel invisible. We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. We all want to be understood. And we want to be around women that we can grow with, right? And so I'm saying that to say the Be Free Inner Circle, be sure that you join the wait list so that you'll be the first to know when the doors open, and allow me to see you, to hear you and understand you, and be your biggest cheerleader. Again, head over to BeFreeInnerCircle.com to learn more. I want to give you some practical ways to think about what it means to be seen. All right. So first is you feel like you're really, truly being heard and listened to. Because you know how sometimes you can be having a conversation with someone and you can tell they're not really listening to you. When you're really seen by people that you share space with, you can tell when they're really listening and paying attention to you. And we all want that. We all want to be accepted for who we are without judgment. And so many people, specifically women, are in friendships and relationships where they're judged. And because of that, they cannot be their authentic selves. And that's not okay. When you're seen, you feel acknowledged, appreciated, and valued. You'll also feel fully present, and that you know that the people that are in your life, they are holding and making space for you. When you are fully seen, that means that you're able to validate your feelings and know that your feelings are real. And lastly, when you're fully seen, you are reminded of how much you mean to that other person, because they're seeing you, they're hearing you, and they're understanding you. My truth now is that I do feel visible. And even when I'm going for my walks, I'll recite my affirmation. I am visible, people see me. I am aware of how invisible showed up in my life in the past, and I'm doing the inner work around it to realize that I am visible and that the invisibility, not feeling good enough and not feeling important came from a wound that I am intentionally working on. And I've consciously chosen people in my life that truly see me. And when you have that, I'll say at first it's an intense feeling because it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And it takes some time to getting used to. But now that I am acknowledging how visible I am, it's becoming easier to accept the people that are in my life that see me. And I'll tell you, there is no better feeling in the world than being around people who truly, truly see you. And I will say that we all want to feel seen, heard, and understood in our friendships, in our relationships, in our career, in our family, etc. And it's up to you to find spaces where you fully feel seen. Okay? So your journal prompt for this week is, do you feel seen in your relationships? Why or why not? And your affirmation is, I am growing and I am going at my own pace. Now I want to shout out my coffee giver of the week. And this week I am shouting out, okay, I'm going to spell out the name that was used, which is TXV3DZLDF. And she says, I just want to say, even though I may not always be able to do the assignments, I always feel encouraged by your words, which motivates me to do better. Thank you for being you. Enjoy your coffee. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for sharing. And you too can treat me to a cup of coffee or 2 or 3 or 4, however many you want, by clicking the link in the show notes, especially if you are learning from my podcast, if you are inspired and motivated in any kind of way. Definitely treat me to coffee and I will be greatly appreciative. All right. So share this episode with a friend and say, hey, girl, hey, I want you to listen to this episode. It was so amazing. And let's talk about it when you're done. You can also share the episode on social media, specifically Instagram, and just tag me when you share it at Be Free Project or Siobhan Sudbury. I would love, love, love for you to rate the episode on Apple Podcasts. The more ratings that I get, the more visibility that I get. And as you know, visibility is very important to me. And then again, I want to remind you that you can join the waitlist for the Be Free Inner Circle. The doors will be opening very soon and you don't want to miss out. And head over to BeFreeInnerCircle.com to learn more. If you ever have any questions, you can shoot me an email. The link is in the show notes. And until next time, girl, be free.
And now I want to personally invite you to join the Be Free Inner Circle waitlist. That's right, the doors are currently closed. However, I want you to head over to BeFreeInnerCircle.com, add your name and email address to the list, and when the doors open, you will be the first to know. This will be your last chance to become a member this year. So again, go to BeFreeInnerCircle.com so you don't miss out.